welcome to another episode of the Ultra Happy Podcast. I am your host, Ultrarunner and coach Tania, and the voice of reason, Ante here.
Hey.
Yeah.
Hey.
We are 12 weeks away from our first desert. Just have to put that countdown. And part of the journey, of course, and a big part of the journey is obviously the most important one is the training part, one that everyone's been asking for. Saying, how am I preparing myself? I know I'm a coach, but I still have a coach myself. And we have our first guest today. I cannot be more excited to introduce her. From working with the NFL, supporting to write the strength training chapter for one of the best-selling books, Training Essentials for Ultrarunning by Jason Koop, which is my go-to for a lot coaching and
Have
just
you been
personal.
started reading it?
Oh yeah,
I'm not even an ultra runner.
I know,
Yeah.
it's just great. Coaching many pro athletes, being an ultra runner herself, and now to coach me. I am honored to introduce a strength training expert and current coach, Sarah. Yeah.
Hey.
All the way from Washington. So first of all, sorry for calling you so early because I know you're like super early there.
Oh, it's okay.
You know?
I'm an early riser. So
Yeah,
it's fine.
I know.
And
All ultra runners are.
yeah. And I think our weather closely matches yours. So gray,
Yeah, it's
rainy,
been
windy.
super rainy today. It really
Yeah,
had
it's
a
bad.
couple of wet rainy runs. So I thought, I don't know what you think, but this is my weekly call. We have this call usually every week. And I want to kind of take you guys to one of our weekly calls. Usually it's me moaning because I do not want to miss that opportunity this week to moan at my coach as it should be.
I think it'd be good for the listeners to see how it works.
How
and
do I moan
interaction.
all the time?
Yeah,
It's just, I'm not, exactly. So we're just going to have our normal, calls if that's okay. How do you
Fabulous.
start usually?
How's the week been going?
Exactly.
How's training? How are we feeling?
How are you feeling? And then I moan about it usually. Oh my God, I'm so broken. I'm so sore, but I'm loving it. That's usually how the calls go. I do want to say this week, I felt it. I felt the bump
Did you?
up in the volume. Yeah, I know you bumped it up. I know you told me this was coming, but yeah, my body can definitely feel it. And I had a 4.5-hour hike run this weekend, and I did 24K around there, usually for the 4 hours and a half. And then I was like, we're doing a marathon in 2 weeks as a B race, and I have to say that I had an oh no moment in the trails. I was like, I have to do twice this,
Yeah.
in 2 hours. And I was feeling a little bit tired by then, like my back, because remember I'm carrying the big backpack. So I was like having that moment of like, oh my God, my back is really sore. My legs are really tired. And I have to do this again because this is just halfway the marathon. And then I went, well, hold on a minute. You're going to have to do that 5 times in a row
5 times.
in the sand. And in the sun. So I was starting having that panicky moment, like, hold on a minute.
Yeah.
This is we're in trouble. Yeah.
The good news is that's pretty universal to have those oh no moments at this point. It's and where you're like, okay, crap's getting real and it's all starting to build and there's a shift in the training and that kind of functional overreach of where you're working hard and you're starting to feel it and then you're like, am I going to be ready?
Yeah.
And
Those are the
it's
exactly
kind of
thoughts I was getting. So
good news is it's normal. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So you reckon this should be the part of the training where you're start, thinking and really considering your life choices.
Yes, absolutely. If you weren't doing it before, now is about the time when it starts to happen.
Okay.
Yep. And
Good.
I will say is that this is the time in the next usually 3 to 4 weeks where people start going like, am I on the right track? Am I doing what I need to do? And yes, you are. But this is when people might start to be like, I need to change things. And this is right before the pivotal moment, before the actual change starts to be felt. And so it's just like sticking with it. And that's why, as you know, as a coach, it's so valuable to have a coach, because we're out here looking at the big picture going, nope, everything's on track. This is normal. You're doing great.
Because if I was coaching myself, I will start overthinking things that I shouldn't be doing. So yeah, you're the voice of reason. So yeah, you're the voice of wisdom, we were saying here.
Oh, sometimes, but it's true. Like I was having a conversation with an athlete yesterday, and a month ago, he's got a big race coming up, and he's like, I was worried a month ago. And we had these conversations. There was a lot of transparency of like, I'm worried, like stay the course, things are going to be fine. He's like, I'm so glad I listened to you, because if I hadn't, or I hadn't been working with you, I would have started to tinker and change things.
Yeah.
And now he's peaking perfectly. Like it's working just as we planned, or as I planned.
Exactly.
And if he hadn't stuck with it, it's like,
I think that would have happened. If I would be coaching myself, I will start like, no, this feels too tiring. Is it not too much? I will start lowering or ramping up, because I will be starting to think, oh no, this is not, I'm not ready yet. I will start freaking out. So yeah, exactly. And that's exactly why when people ask me like, oh, you're a coach, do you coach yourself? I don't. I do have someone. And I am so happy that I got to you, because obviously you are a strength training expert, and I am very, as everyone knows, I'm very advocate of strength training as a base for pretty much anything, but also for running. So that's what I can expect next week. So that's what you're saying. Like we're going to still ramping up a little bit. What is coming up in the next weeks for me?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you look at your calendar, what we've adjusted is we've actually dropped the duration of the long run a bit, but we're starting to pad in some extra volume throughout the week, because as we're progressing, part of it is a little bit of a deload before your trail marathon, because we don't want you completely knackered going into it, but we also don't want you completely fresh, because it is a training run.
Yeah.
But we're starting to increase the volume, spread it out a little bit more throughout the week, because the nature of your event is having to do something long day after day after day, versus just one pivotal day where we count so much on that long run every week to kind of mimic that. It's, can you get up and train every day with some added volume, manage the fatigue, the fueling, the gear, and all of that. So good news is your long run.
Sorry.
No, I was gonna say, good news is your long run is gone down just a touch before the marathon, but you're also gonna see some more volume throughout the week.
So would you say, because obviously now I'm listening to how you were thinking my training, would you say you would, or you would train someone differently for an ultra marathon, like a non-stop one, against a stage race, like the one I'm doing, for example? Like the training, you would plan it differently? Like say, what would you think it's the most, like the different things that people should be doing if they're going to do these two different races?
So early season, there's not going to be too much different, which the goal as a coach, as you know, is getting someone as fit as possible. So a lot of those workouts might look the same depending on where the athlete is, where they're starting, and what their goals are. When we start to reach a point where we're really focusing more on volume and specificity for an event, that's where we start to have that deviation between, say, a one-day 100-miler versus a multi-day stage race. Because a multi-day stage race, we are having to factor in, like we talked about, the cumulative fatigue, not just in a day, but throughout the week.
And then through the months.
And through the months.
In this case, because we're doing one. Yeah.
And as people probably know now by listening to this podcast, you're not just doing one stage race. You've got a year of them. Well, 13, 12 months, 11 months. Yeah. So you've got quite a few not back to back, but essentially, yes, like we've talked about, we're building your volume and fitness, starting off with the first one. That then carries us through to each one with us working on specificity and recovery and all of that. That's going to be so pivotal between your events.
So even that, you think we will, like, what should we focus more in, like recovering fast, so when we finish one race, we're ready to hit the next one pretty much.
In terms of recovery, it's just where the week or two post each of these stage races is going to be doubling down on sleep, fueling, self-care.
If someone asks me, why are you doing this? This is why, right here, sleeping extra cookies.
Orders.
It's normally the bulking on beforehand, all the cakes and stuff. That, to be fair, that's my favourite part.
Yeah. Food. I think correct me if I am wrong, but I think the plan is to get me to the start line of the first one a little bit, like bulked up, let's just call it, like, high in muscle and high on everything, because we're going to be receiving 5 different hits, like you said. Do you think it will be different if we were just doing one, for example?
Well, I never want somebody in terms of like your body composition or in terms of...
Yeah, probably. So, training and body composition, everything, in general.
I'm not a big fan of dieting with ultra running, with training. It just does not go hand in hand. It's not simpatico. So I would never advocate that we have someone coming in like, we got to get you leaner before your event, because you're probably depleting yourself in the process. Yeah. But in your case in particular, we cannot have you going in too light or too depleted at all. Because if it were just one, you might be able to okay, I'll get through this 5 days and I'm good. But the one after another is going to take such a hit on you that you have to go in fully healthy and ready to go.
In your expertise area, which is the strength training, I think it's super strong in the sense of muscle building, because that is pretty much... I'm excited or curious to see how my body is going to respond and transform, let's say, because I am aware it's going to happen.
I think it's quite interesting because people who aren't ultra runners tend to think that you should probably get there quite lean. Yeah. And then it's about managing what you eat on the way round, if that makes sense,
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of people think that they are going to lose a lot of weight in this process or lose a lot of fat in the process of ultra training, but you shouldn't, because you shouldn't be trying to restrict calories. So your calories in and calories out should be equal, if not even getting a little bit more, to allow your body to have the tools it needs to recover.
Yeah, totally.
And if you start restricting, that's when you start getting into the issues of overuse injury problems, illness, getting sick. You'll see a lot of ultra runners that cold after flu, after cold, after injury, after cold. And it's you start to undo the layers, and usually there's an overtraining and an
there's an unbalance in there. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think 100%. That happens, like you said, a lot in ultra running work, because it's a sport that depletes you in so many areas, not only physically but also internally, and you see that a lot. And definitely. So I wanted to ask you another question that I haven't asked you before. Well, I think I seen you sent me your video how you reacted, but when you first heard or opened my email of saying this is what we're going to do, what was your first reaction to it? Oh my God, this person is...
Yeah, you need to be honest.
Yeah, it's all right. You can say I'm crazy. No, it's absolutely fine.
Is cussing out? No, just
what are we doing? What?
This is badass. This is awesome, because you gave yourself a long enough timeline to do it.
Yeah.
Where sometimes people come and they're like, I want to do this thing in 2 months. And you're like, that's a lot. And and that's concerning. But you were like, I want to do this big thing. I've got this big goal, but I'm giving myself all this time to do it. And I have the resources and the patience, and I want to do this right. And so that type of stuff, I'm all about. That's exciting. I was thrilled.
Oh,
I love a challenge.
Yeah, me too, obviously.
You do as well.
And obviously now there is more strength training. I feel like it's more trendy now than it was before. I've been running for 8 years, and when I started, I was big in strength training. And I remember back then it was very frowned upon, oh, you're not doing enough miles, you're just doing a lot of strength, but you're not doing the miles. And I feel like that is shifting, thank God, a little bit into people understanding the importance of it. And because of that, there is a lot of information now in the media and everything. So you being the expert, is there anything that you say, big do's and don'ts in the strength training for runners or ultra runners in general? Is there anything that you would recommend people to listen and not listen? Because obviously there's so much
information.
misinformation as well out there. So what would you say? What would be like your top, tips or do's and don'ts?
Yeah, that's a great question.
These are the questions, by the way, sent by people. Like these ones, we're starting to get into the questions that people were asking me to ask you.
The people have spoken.
The people they want to know.
They want the information. I think it's important to realize that strength training should evolve just as your actual ultra training evolves in terms of progression and periodization. Yeah. And to really realize like where you are in your running season and how to best balance your strength with that. I think my biggest don't would be just try to avoid going online and finding a trendy or sexy influencer and seeing them doing this hardcore
we said that last episode. Exactly.
And thinking that that's what you should be doing 2 weeks before your 100-miler or something like that. I mean, that's a gross, exaggeration, but a lot of times people will get on there and
it is a thing. Like that's what people are doing.
Yeah. I'm going to do 5 minutes of burpees and this. It's like, okay, think about how does that actually help your strength training?
Okay.
And your ultra goals. Yeah. What are you accomplishing out of that? Yeah. Think of strength training as like, how can it make you more durable and a resilient runner?
Yeah.
And I think if you use that lens when you're looking at some of these workouts and just thinking like, okay, how is doing that actually apply to my running?
So if it doesn't do anything,
sexy
maybe
and flashy.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I think it needs just focus on the basics. Focus on the basics.
Exactly.
Squats,
just keep it simple.
Deadlifts.
If you don't have
if
you don't have, let's say, a coach, or just keep it simple. Like simple is better rather than flashier. And
we were actually discussing this a couple of weeks ago, weren't we? And I was saying it's funny coming from someone who's not a runner. I've definitely seen a switch of a lot of people who have been into strength training, weightlifters, etc., who are moving to running, just as finding part of their fitness. And I was trying to figure out why it is, and I think a lot of it's to do with, like CrossFit, for example.
There's all these
high rocks, all these things that are on TV. Yeah. It's funny how people now decide, I think I need to start running or put running into my routine rather than, you know what I mean?
Because he's more of a gym person, like just, general strength training. And now he's like starting to run. Yeah. But then, we did the other way. 5K. Exactly.
You're converting him. I love this.
So, I love that people are starting to, do... I hate that word, but we're just going to say it. Like the hybrid athlete. It's like you're just trying to be fit, The fitness is just fitness. Like what we're labeling now differently, I don't know. But it's just...
Oh, no, I was just going to say it. I love the fact that like lifters are embracing running more. Runners are embracing lifting more. Everybody can realize that yoga has a place in some point. Like it used to be so much hate. The strength training people would be like, God, runners, and then the runners would be like, oh, strength, horrible. And like you said, find something you love, do it the right way, and just move more.
Exactly.
And I think
that different.
Yeah, I think there's a little crossover. I love the changing teams.
I think now that is changing, in recent times.
Because it used to be everybody was pigeonholed into one thing or another. Even if you think about it, marathon runners and ultra runners are like pigeonholed as well, know, and there's a lot more crossover.
I'm a road runner,
you're
a trail runner.
Yeah, but it's good to see that happening.
So for people, again, they were asking, like, what, obviously, if they're following a program, let's say, what would be the indicators that they should look for to know, the program is working, is going as planned, or the red flags that they should be looking for, like, this is not good, I should change or do something?
Yeah, one thing is if volume or intensity ramps up too quickly and you don't want to do both at the same time. Yeah. So those are red flags. You don't want to be building volume and intensity at the same time. So if any program throws you in lots of a big volume ramp with tons of intensity sprinkled in, like that's a red flag. In terms of personally, if you're following a program and you're like, I don't even know what to look for, is your sleep greatly impacted? Are you sleeping poorly all of a sudden? Are you getting sick more often? Are you having little niggles and overuse injuries very often? Are you losing your mojo to train? Those are all signs that something is not working for you. Especially when you follow a static plan. Because
I don't want to run anymore.
Yeah. Well, we've got, we'll just focus on power hiking for a while here.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
But I think, a static plan can be so if somebody can't afford a coach or doesn't have a coach, doesn't know who to work with, and they find a static plans in themselves aren't horrible. They're a place to start, and they can be cost effective. And it's at least a starting entry point for a lot of people. But there's certain things that you have to realize that a static plan is made for a generic person.
Right. Yeah. And then you have to be flexible with that. Like, be aware that flexibility. Because obviously I see a lot of people now coming to get a coach, for example, and they're like already coming injured because they tried to follow X plan and it was way too hard, or, and then they didn't know how to stop it or how to, and then they reach out now that they are injured, or they are, whatever you're saying, that they were injured or lost their mojo or whatever, and burned out, and then now they want to look. It's not like it's too late, but it's like you could have saved that energy and that injury and everything.
See, just on that, can I drop in and ask a question? It's something that I've been reading about a lot recently, and just to get your thoughts on, Sarah, is there's like a lot of these AI apps that seem to be coming out now. You know, like you've got Joggo, Train is one, I think it is, and AI Endurance. I mean, for me, how does that even work? Because it's not, is it monitoring? What is it monitoring? What is it doing?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know either.
It's kind of, I think it's just like a static plan on steroids. I mean, it's just, it gives people a little bit more of a feeling that it's personalized. Because you can put in, like, I need X amount of rest days, and I'm starting at this point. Like, you can input things with AI, and then it'll shoot back slightly more personalized of a plan.
But the thing is, AI is never going to know if you're feeling how you're feeling. Like, we have our calls every week to know. And the first question, that's what I wanted everyone to hear. The question that Sarah gets me every week. How are you feeling? And that is, I think, as a coach, obviously you and me know that's our guideline to know we're going in the right direction or not. And the AI is not going to have that feedback. So, on real time at least. So,
I mean, even when it comes to food and intensity and everything else, I just couldn't get my head around
so definitely,
that's exactly it. It cannot in real time assess how you're doing. And that's such a critical part that I don't think people realize when they first start. They think, I'm just going to get this plan and I'll adjust it. But then they get to a point there, like you said, you don't know how to adjust it. Do I need to add an extra rest day? Am I doing too much? Am I doing too little? Am I, where should I adjust? And that's where having a coach is just so invaluable, because it saves you, a good coach saves you all of that second guessing, putting yourself into a ditch, getting yourself stuck. And like you said, the first thing I always ask my athletes is, how are you feeling?
Me too.
Because I can look at the metrics, just like anybody can look at metrics and be like, oh, things are looking pretty good, and you could be like, I feel awful, like
I'm hitting the metrics, but I can't sleep. Or I had stopped eating, or I'm not hungry anymore. That's like first cue, like something is going on.
The other point as we made last week is you actually need your check-in with Sarah. It's like every week you need it. Whereas if say it was an AI app or whatever, you could just be like,
I'm not such a big moaner, right, Sarah? Like, tell people that I'm okay.
Be honest.
Am I okay? Do I cry too much?
I promise you are not. We chat about how you're feeling. We chat about what's coming up next. A schedule change.
Yeah,
and
that's also very important. Yeah, exactly. And just life.
You're like, okay, I need to rearrange this.
Yeah.
And I do it. I help us craft it in a way that actually makes sense for you to get the most out of your training. Versus sometimes people, a term that I love is they'll start, and you kind of touched on this briefly, they'll start throwing in insecurity workouts.
Yeah.
So they get to a point where they're like, I don't know if I'm doing enough. So they start throwing in workouts to try to do more when actually they need to do less.
Exactly. Yeah, totally.
So
that's why, yes, excellent. That's exactly why I have a coach myself, because I don't think my mind is way too wild. I know I will fuck that in like 3 seconds. Like, I know I will start panicking and doing things that I shouldn't. And then maybe I know because I know, like I know, but I will start throwing things because I'm.
But you're human.
Exactly. It's just
you're human, and that's just it. And you have to spend so much of your bandwidth and energy on your athletes.
Yes, that's the other thing. I like to put that to outsourcing. And we're saying that the last episode, that how you enjoy a meal better when someone cooks it for you. Like, I enjoy opening my app or the training app and just knowing. What I said, I don't have that stress in my head. So, even though I do a lot of plans for other athletes myself, but for mine, I enjoy being also a student, because obviously I am learning and I keep learning from professionals like you, and that's why when I was looking for a coach myself, I had to head to get the best one out there.
Well,
I'm not
just
trying.
Call me Chef Sarah then.
I was gonna say, don't think like I'm like. I do truly believe, obviously, you guys, all CTS coaches are amazing, and I just.
But there's a reason, and you can say this about any coaching group or coaches. You're not going to be the right coach for every person.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And so you can have good coaches, but not everybody's going to be the right fit. And it doesn't mean that someone's a bad coach or someone's not a good athlete. It's finding that fit.
Exactly.
So that's all it is. Sometimes it's like you don't marry everybody you date.
Exactly. Perfect. You know? Yeah, that's exactly well said. Well, excellent. Thank you so much, Sarah. It was so nice to chatting with you. There was not a lot of moans today, just a little bit broken, but I think it's just normal. I am excited for our marathon in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for putting your good sweats on this morning. I hope it was worth it. Yeah, you can go back to bed. It was such
Thanks
a pleasure.
for having me.
I know, it was such a pleasure to have you. I think I've told you before. I actually sent you a voice note last week about it, but I want to publicly say that you're doing such an amazing work. I do feel in great shape, even though I'm knackered, but I feel stronger, if that makes sense. Like I do. Yeah, my body feels knackered, but I feel stronger, and it's nice. It's a nice feeling, and also knowing that I have you in my team and that you're looking after me. So I really appreciate your weekly check-ins, and I guess I will see you next week.
Yes, ma'am.
Anyway.
Thank you. You're a joy to work with. So.
Oh,
this is
I'm a good athlete. I got a star for it today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Yeah, it was so nice to see her. So that's my usually weekly call, guys. So for everyone, made it a one weekly call public for everyone. That's usually how it goes. I mean, we threw there a couple of questions that people are asking me, and I just wanted to throw those in, which I thought they were very interesting. And I think it was funny that she was saying a lot of things that we already spoke about. So it's great to have that feedback from her. But I was telling her that I'm like a little bit nervous about that trail marathon. I think I haven't told you, everyone out there, I'm doing a trail marathon with my backpack, so with my rucksack.
Yeah, that's full weight as well.
Full weight. I'm going to put my 10 kilos up. And it's just, we thought, I didn't want to put in the call because I didn't want to take Sarah's time, but I'll explain you now. We thought that would be a really good race to put my backpack and have like a time limit kind of thing, because obviously I did find the East Trail Marathon is like very beginner friendly. Like the cut-offs are really, really nice, so you could literally walk it. But I just thought it would be really good to have that clock, that time ticking. Because right now I go do my 4 hour and I walk a little bit, I don't know if I'm walking fast enough. So I want to have that. I want to get I want to get that pressure on and then get like my speedy legs on for that one. So that's sort of what we're aiming for, and that's when I had the oh no moment. So it was good to hear that it's absolutely normal to
that's
be
definitely
in that.
Like we'd said before, those check-ins are what make a difference for you, because you hear it it's a universal thing. Everybody feels like that at some point. And I think for you it's good, because what you do is you've got that reassurance, you understand it's coming from someone that's a professional that's been there and trains a multiple running athlete. So no, I think that's good. So you can see Sarah, she is like I said, a CTS coach, and she's also featured a lot in the Koop cast. I can put a link down there, and actually they did a great episode about strength training. So if you are interested in knowing a little bit more in strength training for ultra runners, I'll put the link there. It's a great episode. There was no point of me asking the same questions that she has answered
multiple times in many other channels. I'll just rather put the link there so you can go and listen to it. And or I think we said that in the last episode, if you're looking to, maybe you don't have the means to or the possibility to get a coach, then get proper information from professionals or books, textbooks or audiobooks. Essentials for Ultrarunning by Jason Koop is a great a book to read, to learn about how to train if you want to train yourself. And she helped to write the chapter in strength training, actually, for that book. So it's a great, let's say, aid if you don't have, a coach that, you can work with, then you can work with that coach in like an indirect way.
Yeah, I think that was quite interesting what she said, because she's like that even for people that can't afford a coach, for example. There's points that they can go and look at. I think you were saying about the Ultra Runner's Bible there with Jason Koop. That's a brilliant thing to go, because anybody that's interested will find every bit of information in there, and that's coming from, as I was saying the other week, someone who's a professional, knows what they're doing.
Yeah, and it's funny that she mentioned like an influencer. I was like, we just literally talk about that the last episode. So yeah, just go and seek professionals. Again, doesn't mean the professionals out there in that matter don't need to be running every week races. They don't need to be, winning races. They don't need to be, shredded or looking great. That's not that doesn't mean that person is a professional.
I thought it was quite interesting as well when she was saying, I think for people, again, who don't run, and I've definitely been to races where everybody turns up and they're like super slim. They've got these really like proper runner bodies. And for me, I always thought that what was happening is what they were doing is probably not starving themselves of calories or whatever, but they were on a very specific diet.
Yeah.
And what they done is they got to the race with a very specific food source, or whether it be like they've got the protein or the salt or whatever. But she was saying, no. I thought that she said you shouldn't really, your diet shouldn't really be an issue in getting there. Do you know what I mean? I thought that was really, really interesting.
You shouldn't be restricting your calories.
I thought that was really interesting.
Again, what she says, she's in the same train of thought as me, and probably that's why is my coach, like she was saying. Obviously, going to marry with someone that it
works very well.
It works, exactly. Yeah. We have the same mind or idea of training. Like, I'm not going to marry someone that thinks differently. Like, it will be difficult to work with that. So when I met her, so how it works is with the CTS coaches, you go, you ask that you want a coach, and then they pair you, they give you a chance to have a consultation with a couple of them. Mm-hmm. And obviously I had a consultation with a couple of them. And like she was saying, there are some that are very volume, for example, directed. I will say, if I run a lot, I will die. Like, that was not going to be consistent for me. Like, it's not going to be sustainable. There's another coach that she was big on yoga, for example, which is no shame. Like, if that's your bird, that's perfect. But then I met Sarah, and then I really, really like what she was saying. Yeah. And like you heard her, she's in the same kind of train of thought as me. You just you have to figure out exactly what kind of training you like and you enjoy, and you can stay consistent with it. So that is going to take you to, and then have your goals set. So like she was saying as well, if you're trying to lose weight but then run a marathon, and that's not, you see what I mean? That was the same thing that we were talking about last episode. Like, if you're trying to run more and then lose weight, that usually is not, that's not going to work in the same. So you need to choose one or the other and then go for that specific, objective. So I'm excited for those long training runs. The good thing is that this long training run is going to be in race thing, so I don't have to be scared of getting lost or anything like that. So it's really good.
Do you remember? Funny you thought. In fact, it's not far. Where were you? Was it Wales you were doing? Was it Snowdon? And
when you thought I was lost,
I had to call the mountain rescue.
It was the Cheviot. I don't usually do recce for races, like I said, because I like to be surprised. But in this race, the Cheviot Gold, I think it was my third race that I did when I arrived to the UK. And it was in the middle of winter. And it was going to be pretty much 12 hours in the pitch black dark. Yeah. And it was a self-navigated
And that was your first self-navigated
So I was
course
like,
as well.
super scared. I mean, I was throwing a lot of different challenges to the pot. So I was like, you know what? I am going to go and do a recce, which like I said, I usually don't do it. But in this case, there was a lot of unknowns. And I just thought, you know what? I'm going to go and practice with my compass and I'm going to go and practice with my watch just because it's a little bit different than what I've done before. So I went out for a 2-day training day out.
Yep, that's right.
And then I said,
no.
Yes.
No, what happened was, as Tania had said to me, right, okay, I'm going to
There's
I'm going
no
to go and I'm
internet,
going to do
yeah,
this recce. There's not really much internet. I'll be able to get a call to you for about 3 o'clock. And I'm like...
The next day. So
and
the
I'm
following
like,
day.
Right, okay,
so one night
that's fine. Because,
after.
yeah, I was back in Glasgow. I wasn't down with you. And so 3 o'clock came. I was like, no phone call. Well, to be fair, I was in the pub again with my mate Jason.
See,
it's a common theme here.
So it's a great, like if you're an ultra runner, your partner is going to have plenty of time to go to the pub.
I know, it's been perfect. But you said to me, I'm sure you said to me, you're going to be there at 3 o'clock, or you're going to give me a call at 3 o'clock. So 3 o'clock came and went. She was, I'm sure in my head she'd said that I'll be finished by then. I'm like, right, okay. So 3 o'clock came and went. Try phone, no answer. There must have been about 100 missed calls and messages from me. And at that point, I was saying to my mate Jason, now, I was possibly a wee bit drunk at the time, but I said to my mate Jason, I'm really worried about her. So I start phoning around the hospitals down. Is it Northumberland?
Yeah, Northumberland.
I started phoning around the hospitals,
remember.
and I was like, listen, have you got a girl called Tania Carmona? She'll be easy to spot. She's Mexican.
Wild and crazy.
Wild, I know.
She was just left in the wild.
No, there's nobody. I said, she's been up a mountain. And they're like, that, right, okay. And they said, well, do you know what? If you haven't heard from her in a couple of hours, phone back, okay. And somebody had said to me, you should phone the Northumberland Mountain Rescue. And I was like, that's what I'll do. Phone the Northumberland Mountain Rescue. I know. And they were like, and the guys were like, no, we've not heard anything. There's nobody. There's been no calls. Are you telling us this girl's out in the mountain? I said, I think so. I think she's out there. I don't know what to do. I think she needs help. And she's like, that, right, okay. So they were beginning to gear up. And just as that, you phoned me. And it was like 7 o'clock.
It was 5 o'clock.
And I was like that. I said, where have you been? She's like, I've been...
I told you we'll
be back. I've told you I'll be back at 5 o'clock. And I was like, no, you bloody didn't. No, you didn't. Let me go into my phone. I'll have a wee look. I go into my phone and it said, I'll call you at 5 o'clock.
See?
And here's me got the Mountain Rescue, Northumberland Mountain Rescue geared up. I had to
sorry,
phone them back
mate.
and say, listen, mate, I'm really sorry. I've been a bit daft. So the moral of the story is obviously, one, don't get drunk when your missus is climbing mountains, and don't go to the pub.
And read your messages properly, man.
Like, I was convinced. I was actually convinced.
No, so it was actually 7. I said, if I don't call you at 7... start moving. Because I knew the route had no signal at all, and I was going to be out one night out in the wilderness. Yeah. So it was going to be a 2-day kind of day out. Yeah. So I thought I won't be able to let you know if I made it through or nothing. Yeah. So if I don't come back the next day at 7 p.m., by the way, something happened. I knew by 7 p.m. I should have come back.
I definitely read it wrong.
And then I called him at 5, hey, I'm back. Everything went fine. And he's like, demented. And I was like, what is wrong?
I had to literally phone the guys and say to them, right, you need to stop. We've got her.
I'm like, it's 5 p.m. I even did it in less time than I thought.
I had these visions of the guys going into the helicopters and all that with all the gear on the way looking for it and stuff.
That would be so bad. That's so irresponsible. And I did the right thing because I did left you with the maps, which I usually do. That's really important if you are heading out for a trail run all the time. Just I leave him with the map, the route, everything, so he knows where to. Yeah, GPS, wherever is a possibility. If there's no signal.
To be fair, it was in the early days, and I was a bit panicky.
Maybe that's why. Yeah, because like I said, I just got here to the UK. It was my 3rd race here, and it was a very remote race, which I was so happy that I did that, Ricky, of the route that time, because obviously the date of the race arrived, and it was, funny enough, there was a storm coming, right? I remember I took a train over because I didn't drive by that time. I didn't drive, so I had to take the train, and then I was to an Airbnb. And I thought, how the hell am I going to get from the Airbnb to the start line of this place? And I was starting to look for a taxi or something because it had to be like at 3 a.m. in the morning or something. So I asked the host, like, hey, do you know how can I get a ride or, a taxi or a cab or anything? And he's like, oh, I'll take you.
Yeah, that's right.
And I thought, oh my God, that's so nice. And it turned out that the guy was a massive trail runner. He has done UTMB.
Yeah.
So we had a great, we had a dinner that night. We had having great conversation. And there was a storm coming. And we were pretty much waiting to see if the race was going to be held or not because there was this storm coming. So I thought the Montagne is a Montagne Cheviot race. They said, you know what, we'll know news until the next morning. So you guys, you're going to have to all wait. So I went to bed not knowing if I was going to race or not, pretty much. Woke up, there was nothing on the media or email come through saying that, that if it was going to be cancelled or not. So I thought, this is happening. So I just woke up with the guy, said, I think we're going. So he so nicely woke up super early, drove me to the start line, and he said, I'll be following you and I'll come and pick you up. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to finish like midnight or something. He's like, oh, don't worry, I'll come and pick you up. Anyway, I said, okay. For my surprise, I get there and obviously the storm effectively is going to be hitting some parts of the route. And the organizers, what they did to not cancel the race was, so they gathered us, before the race, how we have a wee briefing. Yep. The organizer said, okay, all right, there was 2 checkpoints to leave your drop bag, so you can leave a little bit of, your stuff in 2 spots around the route. And they said, well, don't leave your drop bags yet because we're going to do the race, but we're going to run it backwards. So I was like, hold on a minute. What do you mean backwards? So instead of running it, clockwise, let's say, we're going to run it. It was a loop. We'll run it the other way, just so when the storm hits, you all should be down in the lowlands rather than be up there. Yeah. The storm is going to hit. You are going to be battered, but it's better if you are down there than up in the wild. So he's like, I will give you like 5-10 minutes to fix your checkpoints, your check bags, because obviously now the point, the third checkpoint is going to be the second checkpoint. So everything was going to be backwards. So it was so helpful in that sense that I did the recce, because then I could go back and be like, okay, I remember I had to go backward in how everything went in my mind. So I was going to hit the highest point first rather than at the end. So you can imagine that it was like a community hall or something. You can see the panic of everyone. Just there was gear everywhere. Everyone was taking the stuff out of there.
Funnily enough, that was one of your favourite races.
I absolutely love that race. But I just love it started even with like that rush of adrenaline. The guy is like, you guys have 5 minutes. We need to get you out. You have 5 minutes. Change your drop bags. Put the drop bag in the vans or the cars that, they tell you, like, check bags, number 1, go to this car. The other check bags here. So whenever you're ready, and I'll see you in the start line in 10 minutes. You guys need to fix your stuff if you need to fix anything. So I remember I had to switch a lot of things, like, really fast. Like, my head was going, like, miles per hour, thinking, what do I need? So the things that I needed at the end, I was going to need them at the start and, all that fun stuff. So yeah, it was super, super fun, that race. Definitely one of my favorite ones. If you want to check it out, that is a really good route. And so that's good. I do that, Ricky. I didn't get lost. See?
I know. Although, honestly, I was panicking.
It was because it was my first ones, probably. And it was just, but it was so, so cool. Well, that was a really fun episode today.
Before we finish,
oh no,
I think we need to clear up some of the comments that's been made. That's been made on the chat. I have had a discussion with Tania about my geography, about Nambia. So on the comments, there's been a few people say,
"No, I've got direct
Nambia.
messages.
It's Namibia."
It's Namibia.
And I had this big discussion with you, and actually, this comes down to one of my favourite topics in the world: is conspiracy theories. So actually, right? And I urge people to go and Google this. I want people to go and Google it and see that Nambia. People are saying that it's part of the Mandela effect. So
oh my God.
Nambia People remember it. There's documentation with Namibia. It was spelt Namibia, and it's not Namibia. So
it's Namibia.
Google it. Trust me.
I got proper sources messaging me.
Teachers
telling me that please tell your partner that he's saying it wrong.
I would like to leave a link in the bottom.
I would like to leave the link.
saying that it's part of the Mandela effect and the conspiracy theory.
Oh God. Yeah. So you can be Team Namibia or Team Namibia. We're going anyway.
We're going anyway.
It will be fun. I'll let you know as well. Yeah. Also, I had a really interesting call with a Mexican runner that's done the 4 deserts, not 5, but 4 of them. It was super interesting call with him. He gave me really good pinpointers. One of them was that I should start, because I've been thinking that it's 10 kilos, and he is saying that his bag was around 6 to 8. So he recommended me to start packing, because I know I have the packing list now. Yeah. So he's like, start packing everything to really know how much weight, and if there's anything that you can start cutting off in weight. So I think next episodes we're going to start packing a little bit, just so we know for real how much weight, because he was saying yes 10 kilos, but if you want to put like luxury items, but he's like, if you start cutting things a lot, and like even stupid things, he was saying like, instead of putting the full toothbrush, just cut the whole plastic bit and just put the head of the toothbrush. Just he said like grams. Just start taking grams and grams for things, and it will add up. And instead of being the 10 kilos that they suggest or they think, because the race is just talking in general numbers. So he's like, and then if you're not, if you recognize you're not needy in the sense of you are okay not changing clothes or anything like that, that's another spirit of clothes that you don't need to carry, for example. So
you were like a different person when you came off that call, because you actually started to think about things that you could change and things that you could, and that will make a difference, because that's not something you've thought about before. But I think
I thought about it, but I thought it's not going to make a difference.
Going back to the previous podcast, and although sometimes I wind you up about you on the phone or talking to all these people all the time, you know what I mean? That just shows you the value of it. And he was such a nice guy,
wasn't he? You come in suddenly in the living room, and I'm like in a call with a random guy, and he's like, what is going on? And I'm like, shut up. Yeah. And I'm just having a call with this.
And they're speaking in Spanish. My Spanish is okay, but I'm picking up some of it. You know what I mean? But after
who's this person? I was like, I just found him on Instagram. Yeah. I messaged him, and he said, oh my God, that's super cool. Give me a call.
And he was excited for you doing the plus as well.
Yeah, he was like, oh, which one is the plus? Because it's an additional one. So I told him which one I was doing. So, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't know this guy when I woke up in the morning. I did not have that information. I reached out and I went to bed knowing much more information.
I think that's good.
Great, having a new friend, I think, because he was super, super cool about it. He said, just ring me or ask me anything. I'm around anytime you need me. So definitely I consider now I have another friend to help me out. And so
but that's just proof that actually when you reach out to the community, they are there for you. And that's something, like I say, we've talked about quite a bit.
Yeah, I think, like I said, more for long races or ultra running. It's just really cool. Yeah, well, that will bring that. So I'll put that in my notes, and maybe we'll start digging into that packing thing in the next episodes. And we have more news, very exciting news, the next episode as well. Life updates, but we're going to keep that one for the next one. That is going to be a shocker for everyone, I think. I think some people may know, but yeah, we're going to put it out there in the public. It's going to be out there. It's going to be official in the next episode, I think. So cool. Thank you so much for joining us today. As always, hope you found this episode helpful and helped you planning your upcoming season, perhaps through your training or your races. Have a wonderful weekend. Keep running and doing whatever makes you ultra happy. Oh, 4 minutes to spare.
Another one under the belt.